have to break a few misconceptions about influencers. So, what is it that they like to do right? These days, influencers usually do basically their work full time. It's really a job title. It's not just like a side business or a hobby for influencers. They spend all their time working on delivering content and building up an audience. Which is why, as I said before, it makes sense to pay them for their work because it really is a job. Additionally, people tend to think that the job is easy, that they just need to look good, snap a couple of shots, and then they look like they're living that jet-setting lifestyle. But to be honest, it really is quite a lot of work. In fact, most influencers are underpaid. And while it may seem like a lot of money to pay someone a couple $100s for a quick campaign, what you have to understand is you're really paying for not just that one quick campaign, but you're paying for all the other work that they're doing outside of basically that one moment, all the work that gets spent into building up an audience to make it even worthwhile. Therefore, influencers are really just like any other medium of advertisement. It's only fair to treat them that way and pay them accordingly, whether that's monetarily or via some sort of compensations that, maybe non-monetary. For example, access to an affiliate program where they could earn based on the sales they refer, or maybe a free product, certainly something that was valuable. That is basically the different ways to provide value to influencers, to essentially pay influencers, and that's just going to give you some additional benefits such as control over the campaign, power to review the posts, insights into performance, and hopefully powerful results as they make referrals. So the big question, part one, what are the tactics I can use to get promoted on social media? We're going to be covering a few different approaches such as product reviews, sponsored posts, and recruiting affiliates. Let's start with product reviews. As online consumers, we rely on what other people say about a product in order to gain better insights, and this affects our buying decision. In fact, I was just talking to my girlfriend today. She was noting how common it is to really research for reviews before you buy anything. We were looking at new mattresses, for example. So product reviews are very powerful. What they are is, it's essentially a review of a product. It's essentially a person's opinion of a product. The more influential that person is, theoretically, the better exposure you're going to get. And if you're paying for that product review, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but basically that's what a sponsored post is. It's essentially paying for a product review. And oftentimes the influencer has to disclose that this product review was sort of purchased or funded by such and such organization. So product reviews essentially are extremely powerful because everybody's looking for them online. If before they buy something, they're going to say product review of XYZ mattress. So how do you kind of evaluate, product reviews, whether or not it's going to be valuable as something that you want to make part of your marketing activities? Well, primarily you're looking at the influencer themselves. Obviously, the quality of writing is important, but we kind of assume that these people are professionals, so it's less of a factor. We're looking more at their social media followers across different platforms, or maybe in a platform in particular. For example, if you feel like Instagram is where the majority of your audience should be, then you'd be looking for an influencer with a large Instagram following. And then on that particular platform, you might be looking at their engagement rate. Now, the engagement rate may not be a sort of a metric, so to speak, that is readily available like followers. You can kind of see the number for followers. Engagement rate might just be you sort of looking at their profile. Do you see a lot of likes and comments and activity? And then finally, traffic, especially if this is on blogs. It's not really possible to know the traffic to somebody's Instagram profile, but you can certainly look at the traffic to their blog via Google Analytics. So, those are some different ways to kind of value an influencer's future contribution. And you should know that essentially the better these metrics are, the more they're going to cost, and you're going to have to pay for that or give away your product for free. Sponsored post, as I mentioned before, is essentially a product review that you've paid for. So is it worth it? Well, that really depends on you. I've heard people talk about really making a killing with sponsored posts. I've heard, excuse me there. So I've definitely heard a lot of people say that influencer marketing was what really made their campaign pop, and I've heard other people say they spent hundreds of dollars and got nothing. Unfortunately, it is difficult to tell, and you really do have to make some tests by running a few to kind of see how it works for you. So, I mean, let's talk about, for example, an example campaign from Rescue. They did a buy one, get one free campaign where influencer bloggers like A Close Horse and a girl named PJ published sponsored posts highlighting their experiences with the product. The result is that the campaign yielded impressive results, including 133 million social media impressions and more than 6,000 clicks to the coupon site. The brand saw a 258% increase in their Instagram following and also managed to be the #4 nationally trending topic on Twitter during the campaign. So in this case, absolutely worth it. We have an example of an established brand working with top-of-line influencers to drive clicks to their coupon site. So it sounds like this really paid off for them. Recruiting affiliates. Let's talk about that. An affiliate is someone who promotes or helps sell someone else's product and service in exchange for compensation in the form of commissions. So are influencers affiliates? Well, they certainly can be. They don't necessarily have to be, because if they're not actually making commissions based on sales, they're not technically an affiliate. But it's very much so that an influencer could become an affiliate. They could join an affiliate program and help promote a product and earn commissions. Now, recruiting an affiliate is generally free because they make money by sending you sales. They make a commission, so they don't have to be paid outright in general. That said, you do want to, just because they're free, you may be putting in time to get them set up on the program. They're still going to be representing your brand, so you want to consider the following. Whether or not, of course, they're the right fit to be a part of your affiliate program. And then, of course, it's also important to make sure that you have the right affiliate platform so you can track sales and make, payments very easily. I know at Ninja Outreach we've had multiple affiliate softwares because it was difficult to find one that really did everything that we needed to do. Additionally, think about your affiliate offering. So what percent are you going to give them? At Ninja Outreach, we give them 50-50, which is quite high. But I've seen a lot of other affiliate programs give something like 10 or 20%. And then, of course, just think about what affiliates are going to be the best ones for you. So in terms of Ninja Outreach, definitely as I mentioned before, the affiliate program has been a significant source of signups. This is a screenshot of the dashboard. I believe we use Post Affiliate Pro. That's the software we use and recommend. But of course, there are many out there that you can take a look at. Before Post Affiliate Pro, we used to use OSI. But you can see the decent amount of clicks, impressions, and sales from our affiliates just in the last month. So moving on, after having discussed the various product review sponsored posts and affiliate program, and we have talked about how it's important to compensate influencers unless they're, of course, earning commissions. Let's talk about how much influencers usually charge, the big question part 2. We're going to be talking about different social media platforms. We're going to be talking about blogs, and then we're going to be talking specifically about Instagram because that one kind of stands alone as being very popular nowadays. So general social platforms like Facebook and Twitter. These are often used as applications for supporting influencers. Normally, they are linked to the influencer's Instagram and blog, and therefore published simultaneously. So it isn't too often that we find Instagram influencers who are thriving specifically on Facebook and Twitter only. But I will say that I've definitely come across influencers who are getting paid for sponsored tweets or sponsored posts on their Facebook just on having large enough followings there. But usually, the expectation is that an influencer will promote on Facebook or social or Twitter because just along with the entire campaign. The reason that you don't see as much people kind of focusing on Facebook and Twitter is the engagement. The engagement that we're seeing right now from Instagram is significantly higher than what we see on Facebook and Twitter. A lot of people have Twitter accounts, but they're not that active on them. They maybe just get so many notifications. But people are really living on Instagram nowadays. So that's why you see that one kind of stand alone. That said, more or less, if you want to know how much we think it kind of costs to get a sponsored post on Facebook and Twitter, our experience is around $50 to $100 per post. Now, that might be maybe a series of a couple of posts. For example, for 3 tweets and 3 Facebook shares, it'll be something like $50 to $100. It's not often just one, but it's not as expensive as many other things influencers will charge for. But you're not getting as much, and it's not as much work for them because it's fairly easy to, tweet something. But that's approximately where they lie. As for blogs, there's a lot of different factors to sort of consider. With Facebook and Twitter, more or less the engagement and the size of the following. But with a blog, it might be the length of the post that they write, the amount of research they have to put in, the web authority of their blog, so how much essentially link juice they're going to be sending you, or previously that was sort of like the page rank. Nowadays we kind of look at something like domain authority to give an idea of kind of how much web authority the website has in Google's eyes, and of course web traffic, because this is ultimately the number of people that are going to be seeing the post. So let's talk about an example scenario of where we adjust the length of the post and we include some research. Let's say you're looking for a write-up of maybe 300 to 500 word blog post on a DA22 blog. By the way, this is not really that large. 300 to 500 words is not too long, and a DA domain authority 22 blog is not that high. So in this case, we're thinking maybe the ballpark could be something like $50 to $150 on the high end. That's because it still does take this person's time to, write the article, do the research. Sometimes you supply the content yourself, and that can obviously decrease the cost of working with an influencer in this case. But this is certainly overall going to be on the low end based on what you're asking them. Let's talk about a high traffic example website. Let's say you want a write-up of 500 to 800 words on a DA50 blog. So this is obviously a longer post, and the domain authority is a lot larger. 50 is a really significant domain authority. I think the average is in the 50s. So it really tells you that the authority is quite high. In our research, the ballpark figure is going to be about $300 to $500. Again, it doesn't mean it couldn't be lower, and it doesn't mean it couldn't be higher, but that's probably about what it's going to cost just for everything that you're sort of getting there. So again, how do you know it's worth it? Well, that's up to you. For some businesses, $300 to $500 is not that much. Their marketing budget can be thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. But for a small mom and pop shop, that might just be unaffordable and therefore not advisable. In short, you have to really measure your requirements against, the determining factors to decide if it's a fit. It's a fair pricing for both parties based on your budget, and do you feel like based on the exposure you're likely to get, that it's going to be worth it? Based on our experience, we think the low end is going to be around $100, and the high end tends to be around $500 for most blogs. Now let's go over to Instagram. And first, let's take a look at the world's top influencers. We have some people here about what they charge. On the left, we have YouTuber and Instagrammer Zoella, and she charges $14,000 for a sponsored post on any of these websites. Her Instagram following could definitely be in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And then, we have a couple other girls and guys here who are all charging, around 10 to 20,000 per post. It's a lot of money. But I'm sure these influencers have built up, extremely impressive following. So this tells you kind of the high end of what you can expect. But some brands really do. They want to work with the best. They want to say, I want to work with the best YouTubers and Instagrammers. Well, this is what you should be prepared to pay if that's the case. And to be honest, it can obviously even be higher. Especially what you're asking of them. For example, I I've spoken with one person who said that they were spending, they had a budget of $50,000 for an Instagram influencer. Now that person was going to sort of spend the weekend, and they were going to attend an event, and they were going to be sort of vlogging, all about the event on YouTube, and then posting pictures on Instagram. So it was kind of a whole weekend, not just a single post. But still, $50,000, a lot of money. How do you determine the price? Well, again, there's no formula for this. You're going to take a look at the followers, the growth rate, the engagement rate, the audience that you see. At the end of the day, you don't really determine the price. The person tells you how much something is going to cost, and you have to decide whether or not you think it's worth it. So, for example, let's take a look at this graph. As you can see, the more followers they have, the more you're going to pay per post. So a rough guide is if there's less than 50,000 followers, it might be around $250. If it's, and then it's maybe $1,000 per 100,000 followers. So, there you see at the higher end there, 1 million plus followers could easily be, $1,400. And I think that, it's even maybe a bit more exponential than that, to be honest. I think that, as you can see from the previous examples, you're looking at, sponsored posts of tens of thousands. So definitely, it can get to quite a lot of money there. But overall, for most follower accounts, you're looking in the couple $100 range, unless you're going to the really, really high-end people. As for growth rate, you can take a look at the influencer's growth rate over the course of a year. This chart shows an influencer that had an increase of like over 1,000%, meaning over the course of 1 year that their follower count grew by 1,000%. So they can also ask a higher price because they're getting this growth rate basically. By the way, there's such a thing as faking it. So here's what a fake growth rate can look like. You see that one day when all of a sudden they just gained 60,000 followers. That it basically means they purchased those. It just doesn't really make sense that they would just kind of shoot up just like that. Of course, anything is possible. It's possible that they got featured on some really high traffic site or on the news or something like that. But in general, it means they probably purchased their followers. Engagement rate, here's a good gauge of an average engagement rate relative to the number of followers. So let's say, for example, 2,000 followers, 6% engagement. That's going to result in about 120 likes. And if it's, 1 million followers from 1.5% engagement, that's going to result in about 15,000 likes. So the healthier the engagement, the higher the price demand because they're getting you more impressions, more engagement, basically. So this gives us, in general, the more followers you kind of expect a lower engagement rate just because the more followers one has, generally they tend to be a bit less engaged, less active, a bit more tire kickers, but the net can definitely be more. So just think about with Instagram pricing, how does the post motivate the consumers to act? How do they have a history of selling out an item? Do they have a history of selling an item because they posted it? Do some research to find out about how their past, posts have performed and how audience have reacted, towards it. That will give you an idea of maybe whether you think that what you're likely going to get in return is going to be worth the price. So for example, a dog food brand Pedigree targets several key influencers, including Christine Cole, to promote their campaign to humanize their brand. And this social post helped Pedigree increase their media value by 1.3x and achieved 43 million impressions. So that is the potential impact of an influencer. And what we see on the right is sort of what these posts look like. This is what Christine Cole, posted. You can see, she's very, it's a very clear promotion. It's an advertisement. She's mentioning Pedigree in the post. She has a relevant picture. This is, it has almost 1,000 likes. So this is sort of probably one post of many that she made. In short, determining how much to pay an Instagrammer depends on engagement, authenticity, impact. But you're looking at $50,000 to $20,000 per post. But like I said, more likely a couple $100 in that range. And we'd say based on our experience, the average Instagram influencer usually requests $50 to $100 for an Instagram post if they're a very micro influencer with only 500 to 5,000 followers. Which, unless they have crazy engagement, it's not likely to send you necessarily a ton of traffic, in just one post, but, you can always do multiple. In conclusion, how do you know which tactic is best for your business? Well, it depends on your budget, your niche, your target, whether Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram is the best for you, whether you want to be on a blog post and you want to get that link juice from Google, that is really up to you. So, the best is if you have enough of a budget that you can experiment and to see what works. And, here's a summary of the average prices per network that we talked about earlier. And as for the key factors that determine pricing, it's really who the influencer is. The more followers, engagement, site visitors, the more they can demand. If it's a blog post, how long is it, and does it require research? Because that really is really kind of asking for the time of the influencer there. And how healthy is their page or website or blog? Does it have organic growth and traffic and a lot of engagement? You get what you pay for, realistically. The more money you pay, the more likely you're going to get in terms of traffic and impressions and sales. But it doesn't mean that you're always going to, the ROI is going to be different. It's going to be absolutely different. So thank you. I'm glad. I hope you liked the presentation, learning a bit more about influencer marketing, how it applies to brands, and the different types of tactics that you can use, social media, blog posts, diving into these different networks, and giving you an idea of pricing, which is really one of the biggest questions that we have is how much does this cost? It's certainly not, it's not necessarily cheap, and it does take time to find these influencers. That's why Ninja Outreach exists, to try to decrease how long it takes. But if you have, additional questions, feel free to shoot an email over to David Ninja Outreach, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you very much.